All right, here we go. That was a bit of an extended intro with the music there. I was double checking to make sure that we were live across all the platforms that we're live on. Thank you, Tony. Tony says your title, interesting title. That was my goal, was to have an interesting title that actually did represent what we're going to be talking about. And the title, for those listening, well, you probably clicked on
those
this.
who can't, for blind people.
For Braille, I didn't put it in Braille. It's Unveiled, the most damning Epstein file you definitely haven't seen.
And for blind people, unveiling is when we can show you something.
Totally, yes.
But you still couldn't see it.
Right. We can help you feel something. And I don't mean that just blind people have never seen this file. I mean, everybody, for the most part, has never seen this file unless you're a long time listener of this show dating back 9 years. I'll get to that in a second. But I don't usually go that sensational with the titles because I try and truly represent what we're talking about, because I hate the shocking, breaking, unbelievable, and I hate that. Okay,
but what you have is truly an unveiling.
It's truly an unveiling, and we'll get into why. You will see why. Thank you for noticing that, Tony. I appreciate it, and I will try to do justice to that title. He says, and that's a great teaser too. Thank you. This is the Propaganda Report. I am Brad Binkley here with Ian Covell, and we are going to be talking about what I believe and have long believed, because I am honestly the only person that I have ever seen talk about this Jeffrey Epstein file, an Epstein file that I have for 9 years believed to be the most damning one that exists, because it names, specific institutions, and it's never talked about. It's never talked about by, obviously, this is not a file that's going to be released by the government. We saw the binder bitches. It's not one that the big influencers who get credit for revealing Epstein-related information that, some of us were talking about on WSB radio 9 years ago. But they're not going to show you what I'm going to show you today, because one of two things.
This could be the last episode of Propaganda Report. That's how big this file is.
I don't know if you noticed what it said on the image that I created. It said that it's a big vault. It's a big, like the Bank of the Federal Reserve of New York, and it said on it, the most damning Epstein file. And then it said, trespassers will be Epsteined, which took me a long time to get there, because Grok is retarded. Even if you tell it exactly how to spell words, it'll be like Epstein.
True. ChatGPT has just upped the game on their image generation, and it's pretty damn good. I got to be honest with you.
Well, there's a little AI race war going on, but
like white AI versus black
AI,
versus
of course, versus
yellow AI versus red AI.
All the emojis that are available for pregnant men. And I am being sarcastic there, but this document, to me, I was telling Ian before the show, in 2020, when I think it was Cernovich worked with the Miami Herald to get some Epstein documents unsealed, and that is when kind of the top really blew off on the Epstein story when it came to the news media coverage. And from the very beginning of when that happened, I said on this show, there's something really weird about this, because it's leaving out the most important document that I know exists, because I was able to find it. And Cernovich is a lawyer. The Miami Herald should know how to find it. But it was not mentioned not one time, which made me believe this is some sort of limited hangout, because I don't think I can say they don't know this document exists, because they seem to be in a positions where they can find it. But the alternative would be that they are protecting the people specifically named in this document, the institutions specifically named in this document, some of whom did get exposed a little bit later after that 2020 revelation. And we saw some of the names of, big scientists in various fields and big bankers that were friends with Epstein that had their reputation ruined and ended up having to sell their company.
Not on that list.
No, not that I noticed anyway. And so all of these things happened. All of these people who kind of had their careers and reputations ruined because their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was finally exposed in the mainstream media back in 2020, 2021. It's an interesting thing because many of those names are cited specifically in this document that I'm going to show you that was available to people who know how to do legal research and are willing to spend the money to do it. And that's why you're not going to see this from these other big influencers, because to find this document, you can't search Google because Google doesn't have access to it.
Right. It's behind one of those paywalls where they hide all the real information.
They hide the real information.
Yeah.
Right?
If you ever try to do research for something, you realize that all that shit is for academics only because couldn't just
you're
let
absolutely
that
right.
information fall into the hands of the average person.
You're absolutely right. And so that's why sometimes you might see like a paragraph from this document, but that doesn't tell even close to the full story. But the way that I found it was I went to law school and I learned how to do legal research on some of these search engines. It's not like a Google search. You don't just type in Epstein fuckboy or something like that. You have
That's
to,
what I do.
and it'll show up.
That's how I start my day.
every morning. Yeah, it's like, I mean, there's the whole class you take in law school on learning how to navigate efficiently these case law research search engines, because I mean, this is what lawyers use to build their arguments in cases. They look at precedent law, and there's thousands of pages of documents for some of these cases, like this Jeffrey Epstein case. And the reason that I went to one of these search engines is because I was researching Epstein, because at the time when Trump and Clinton were both running for president in 2016, my starting assumption was they're both probably associated with this pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, equally. And I was searching to find out if there was evidence to support or disprove that hypothesis. And I found some of the publicly available Jeffrey Epstein court documents, because there's so many different cases he's been involved in over the years. And there was many of them that were publicly available through if you use Google's search modifiers, you could find some. And reading through what was hundreds of pages of documents there, what intrigued me the most was not what those documents said. It was, which if you want to know what those documents say, just watch any of Ian Carroll's stuff, because he's covering them just now. It was what those documents did not say that intrigued me the most. It was what they referenced that I'm like, okay, something has to exist about that little reference there that's I'm not finding on any Google search. So I'm like, screw it. I'm going to spend a little bit of money and get on one of these legal case law search websites, and I'm going to see if I can find it. So I put together a research plan like I learned in school, and because you got to know like kind of what you're looking for, or at least the direction that you're going on these websites. Otherwise, it's a massive amount of impossible information. And I was able to find something with the help of one of the victim's lawyers that I contacted, and I exposed it in 2016 on WSB. And then they took it all off the internet, like I said earlier. And, I thought to myself the other day, I wonder if they also removed that from the legal website. And I got back on recently, and I was able to find it. And so that's where we are right now. And that's why you know that this is a document that you definitely haven't seen unless you're a lawyer who's been on this case and has remained quiet about what you saw. We'll find you.
Comment comment if you've been a lawyer remaining quiet about this.
Ian, we lost your audio. Just I think it switched to
Hold on.
there.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
So while Ian's working on his mic there, I'm going to give you kind of the setup for
Is
what.
that better?
That's much better. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that if you're a lawyer that's been sitting on this and hiding it, go ahead and comment.
Yes, please. If you are corrupt, please comment and let us know where you are and all the corrupt actions you've been involved in. So here's what this file is that I'm going to show you. It's where is it? This is a case, one of many. This is a filing that was made by one of the victim's lawyers, the guy that I contacted actually. And in this filing, he's arguing that Epstein's lawyers, the prosecutors from the Southern District of Florida, and I think the U.S. Attorney General, that they were all illegally conspiring, that they had done that to prevent Epstein's victims from finding out that those three were secretly working on a sweetheart plea deal, which the victims actually had a legal right to know about because they had a legal right to object to aspects of if they didn't like the deal that Epstein or co-conspirators were getting, which is why they kept it in secret and did everything they could to prevent the victims from finding out about it so that they could not object to it during the time frame that they would be allowed to object to it. Now, let me be clear. This is not the document. I'm not talking because that's the same background setup as the document that some people have seen that is public now, the paragraph that shows the co-conspirator clause in Jeffrey Epstein's plea deal. That's not what I'm talking about. Oh. Although I was one of the first people to reveal that also in 2016, that just became a little more public through a screenshotted image that everybody shares around. And it's like, is that just the only thing on that document? Is that screenshotted paragraph? That's interesting. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the broader and in my opinion, more interesting revelations and information in what this lawyer included as evidence of their conspiracy, which he included a whole bunch of stuff to show that they were colluding together to get this plea deal in secrecy. And part of that evidence was this document. It's a pretty long document. But within the document was a plea letter. And this plea letter is the most, I think, revealing and damning document of all of the even the Jeffrey Epstein egg-shaped penis deposition. This is more damning.
What?
More damning. Do you
than
know about
an egg penis? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know why? The speculation as to why someone might have an egg-shaped penis?
It's penis pumps, dude.
Penis pump, right? He had penis pumps down at the island.
Yeah, penis pump penis.
I got penis pump penis now. You want an egg? Yeah. Crack my dick. Yeah. Crack my dick. So in this letter, as I said, a number of high-profile organizations that you will recognize and high-profile people, some of whom you will recognize, Clinton maybe, were included. Trump was not included in that. Does that mean he's innocent of anything? No, that in and of itself does not. But I'll tell you this. You don't want to be someone mentioned in this letter because it doesn't look good, especially in retrospect, and especially if your name is Clinton, a name which is specifically mentioned twice in this letter. And what this letter is it was designed to say, look, the things you're charging our client with doing, he obviously didn't do any of them. Your whole framing of the issue is wrong. Here's why, at best, he committed a misdemeanor that you should forgive him for. And the reason you should forgive him for and bury all of this is because here's this expose on why Jeffrey Epstein is history's most philanthropic, heroic, caring, and person who's given the biggest positive impact on the planet that's ever existed. It's St. Jeffrey. It's the
he
story.
Gave away more CIA money than anyone else.
It's crazy, dude. It's literally like a 3-page story written by his lawyers on the story of St. Jeffrey Epstein. And it was designed to say,
live with themselves.
It's crazy, dude. Give us the plea deal or all these names mentioned in this story. Maybe they'll exercise their influence on you is the way that I took it. And also, hey, let's give a little bit of an alert out to the people that we mentioned because they might want to know that if you guys don't give them this plea deal, that maybe loose lips will sink some of these ships as well. And then maybe the deal was made, and maybe that's why none of this stuff impacted these people mentioned until 2020, 4 years after anybody could find this document. I'm speculating there. That's my speculation. Let's read it.
To speculate. You've earned it.
I've earned some speculation power.
Yeah.
Let's read this MFer. I'm a bird law expert, and I've been quiet. Nate, I like you. Don't tell me. I should say, look, if we're cool, don't tell me that. It's like when you represent somebody as a lawyer, it's you got to be like, look, let's be upfront. Don't tell me some shit that you aren't willing to say. You can't tell me you're guilty and then say, let's figure out how to lie about this. Don't do that to me, because I'll get disbarred and then you'll murder me. I don't want to do that. So
I
look,
know it looks like I'm guilty, so let's come up with a way to make me look innocent.
I redacted every mention of you, Ian. I made it look like they redacted it.
Thank goodness.
It's all
I'm sure I was
redacted.
all over this document.
They were like, Jeffrey Epstein's best friend, Ian Covell, can vouch for his entire beautiful life. And they had a picture
I'm
of you and
surprised
Jeffrey.
my name has not come out sooner.
All right. I don't know. Let me get this document up here. As a lawyer, I plead the fifth, says Tony. All right, here it is. Can you see that? No. All right.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. This is the you are looking at it. You're looking at the document here. So I'm going to go through this. I think it's like 3 or 4 pages. It might be a little longer than that, but it's worth it, because this is what his lawyers did. Again, working with the Attorney General and the prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida, who, when you read other material related to this, it kind of comes off to me as though the prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida were being threatened by a gang of Epstein, thugs. To me, like, people started dropping off the case. A couple of them died, and then they started, like in this letter, they started saying, "Here's all the reasons this case is going to fail. Okay, you're going to have nothing. So if you want to get anything, all right, we better drop this." Little life in prison thing you're trying to charge him with federally to maybe a little local misdemeanor where he goes home and every now and then gives his parole officer a call. And they did. And that's exactly what they did. So I don't know how much blame to put on the prosecutors in the Southern District. They do have blame. They were definitely being threatened. And this is the portion of the letter where we learn the story of St. Jeffrey Epstein. Let's go through it here. Mr. Epstein warrants delineation, to prosecute. That's a different word.
Declination. I don't know what that.
Does that say declination or is that an E or C?
It does say declination.
Yeah, well, it'd be 2 E's. A
One of
declination.
the lawyers in there can tell us what that means in
to
legalese.
prosecute as exercise of
Declining?
discretion.
Declining to prosecute.
That's right, declining.
Okay.
And it says here, we strongly believe that no federal case would lie under the facts here. Moreover, as we discussed, there is a pending state case against Mr. Epstein, which can be resolved in a way that vindicates the state's rights and obligations in this matter. Even that there. Look, we can help you satisfy your obligations.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
In a way that
we got a
helps.
win-win.
Yeah, it's a win-win. Yeah, really, this should all be like, imagine Tony Soprano reading this. In considering an appropriate disposition in a case such as this, where the applicability of the statute, both legally and as a matter of policy, raises serious questions, and both the reliability and admissibility of much of the evidence is in doubt. It is useful to consider how best to use broad discretion, the broad discretion you enjoy in choosing whether to prosecute. Okay, in this regard, might I say, we suggest that having a greater understanding of who Jeffrey Epstein is as a person may help inform you how to best proceed. And just imagine a gun being pointed at their
Why
head.
don't y'all have a seat while we tell you a little story? We put it together a little musical.
Am I
Little musical we're
exaggerating
gonna
that, though?
perform. No, you're right. We put a little musical, Epstein the musical, and we're going to put it on for you guys. Okay?
Yeah, they blow one of the guys' heads off in front of them.
All right.
Yo, maybe that'll help you decide how to proceed. Just the way they minimize the possibility of prosecution,
This
which
next
he had
part I love.
done. Like, he had actually, I know this is the great part. He had actually been, they were going after him for a long time. And this is the same type of tactics that have been used his entire life to prevent him from being prosecuted. Is you're not going to have a case. And so the argument from Jim Acosta, who was the prosecutor down there in Florida, is basically, if we didn't do this, then they were going to kind of destroy our case or everybody all the witnesses would be gone, and we would have nothing to get him with. So we decided to get him with something.
We'll kill everybody.
So all right, now we're getting to the juicy stuff. In consideration, an appropriate disposition. Did I read that already?
Yeah.
Yeah, an appropriate.
Now we're into the who is Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes, it is. This is great. An appropriate disposition in a case such as this, where the applicability of the statute. Yeah, I already got that. Yeah, sorry.
So down here, Jeffrey Epstein was raised.
Jeffrey Epstein was raised. All right. Jeffrey Epstein was raised in a middle-class neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. By hand, go back in time. By hand, hard-working parents. His father, a laborer, and his mother, a secretary.
Oh, just breaking rocks all day for Jeffrey.
You know what this makes me think of? Back to the Future 2, when Marty goes back to discover Biff and Biff's story of how he became Biff.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
We should do that. We should do a voiceover of this and some sort of imagery of Epstein and his hardworking parents. So his father a laborer, his mother a secretary. They lived comfortably, but were by no means well off. Mr. Epstein's parents instilled a strong work ethic in him, and growing up he held a variety of jobs to support himself, from driving a taxi cab. Oh. He drove a taxi cab. Hey, do you mind if I jerk you off while I drive you to your... Can I get a massage? Well, he worked as a mechanic. Any notion that Jeffrey Epstein was born with a silver spoon in his mouth should be dismissed, although Mr. Epstein is a self-made and long and hard. See, they shouldn't put stuff like that in there. Although Mr. Epstein is self-made and worked long and hard.
Long and hard and sweaty and hot.
I imagine they were winking because this wasn't just submitted to the court. There was a private meeting between the state prosecutors there, Epstein's lawyers, and I don't know if anybody from the AG office was there. I don't know about that. But they also gave this pitch. They read it to them in person. So they're talking to them directly. He worked long and hard, wink, and he could not have achieved his success without the personal guidance and support of others. These key people identified the promise in Mr. Epstein and brought him to Bear Stearns. Wow, that's a big jump right there, right? We go from a hardworking, middle-class family, parents, to Bear Stearns pretty quickly, which is a big investing firm, if I recall correctly. There, starting in 1976 at the age of... So we had hardworking, middle-class parents, and bada bing, bada boom, you're working at Bear Stearns at 23. Interesting. At the age of 23, as a floor trader's junior assistant, he became in 1980 he became a limited partner in 1980 at the age of 27.
Yeah, he must have displayed some kind of amazing corruptibility along the way.
Yeah, many think he was a Mossad agent planted over there, they believe. Among the very many beliefs, we're going to get to the names here in a page or so, so wait on the edge of your seat there, because this stuff is all important because it's the mafia approach to how he got that sweetheart deal, and in my opinion, how the people mentioned here at worst got shamed publicly. None of the people are in prison, okay? And some of them actually don't even... it's very hard to even find a reference to them and Epstein. There's actually somebody on here whose relationship with Epstein has never been exposed until it's about to be. Of course, he's like 90, so it's like a 90-year-old Nazi still got to expose him. Whatever. All right. Among the very many benefits that his experience there provided was an introduction to the people who ultimately became his clients. Wink, wink. See, that takes another tone nowadays, doesn't it? Because you hear his clients, and you don't think Bear Stearns. What you think nowadays is Sex Island. Early in his professional career, Mr. Epstein realized the profound impact that even one person can have on the life of another. Yes, he did. His gratitude for the assistance he personally received and his sense of obligation to provide similar assistance and guidance to others is in large part the motive for the primacy of philanthropy in his life or his particular philanthropic interest. Mr. Epstein has devoted a substantial portion of his time, efforts, and financial resources to helping others, both on an individual basis, wink, wink, and on a more reaching scope, also wink. Mr. Epstein gives generously of both his time and his financial resources equally to individuals whom he knows personally and well to those with whom he has had little or no personal contact. He just walks up to random people and asks for naked massages. Just a few examples. Some time ago, the 2-year-old son of an employee was diagnosed with a retinal blastoma. When told, Mr. Epstein not only gave the employee unlimited time off to attend his son and promised whatever financial support was needed, but Mr. Epstein made the full list of his medical and research contacts available. So what I see here is Epstein seeing an opportunity to experiment on a kid because Epstein invested in a lot of experimental research of this type. I mean, this is the way I interpret this. The employee was put in contact with and also a way to compromise this employee.
Yeah.
The employee was put in contact with a former colleague who was then conducting eye research at Washington University. Epstein organized several meetings to determine how the colleague could be of assistance, including by arranging for further meetings with experts at Washington U. Though the employee's son lost one eye, I wonder how that happened.
He was butt-fucked.
He was
though.
skull-effed at
did
Washington
butt-fuck,
University.
yes.
Isn't that interesting, then? Did he lose it to the disease or to the treatment?
Yeah, they're like, well, let's just take the eye out.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like it takes a specialist to figure that one out.
I'm an optometrist researcher and doing innovative research, but I just have to say that eye looks delicious, and I got to eat, so we're gonna remove that eye, and then it's the only way I can truly see.
In front of you. Yeah, we're gonna eat your eye in front of you.
My partner's gonna have sex with your skull, and then we will get started. Mr. Epstein speaks so highly of you. All right, so. Yeah, my grandma, that's a weird transition. My grandma, I've told before, she had LASIK surgery back in the late 90s. She died years and years ago, but she actually lost vision. She went blind in one eye because the surgery messed up.
And LASIK did?
Yeah, it did.
That's why I don't get it.
It's crazy, man. Me too. I found a bunch of letters written back and forth between my granddad and the lawyers of the doctor. My granddad was just like the nicest guy ever, and these lawyers, it's so messed up. The way they talk about it, the way they kind of threaten you with you're going to get nothing if you don't disagree to this, and there was really nobody was really held responsible for doing that, and they didn't receive any compensation.
Yeah, the response is, they didn't get any compensation?
No. I think if I'm trying to remember exactly what they did. I think they decided not to pursue it because I don't think that they could afford to. If I might be misremembering this, but I need to go back and look at those letters. I don't think it was worth it to them financially. I think it would have put them in a bad position because a lot of the letters from the lawyers and the doctor's lawyers was how expensive trying to bring this case would be. You know. And it was messed up, but that's why I haven't got LASIK because I remember that happening. And my grandma, she's blind for the rest of her life. It sucks. Okay,
it's a shame that when you say how expensive. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, would be crazy enough to just try to just sue LASIK ourselves. Right. It won't cost me anything but time.
I'll be my own lawyer.
Filing fees.
No, I will do that. I will die on that hill. 100%. I will put every resource I have into that. I will live in a box on the street with my dog to fight that.
I did that to my first landlord in LA. I fucking sued the motherfucker and won. Represented myself. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was great.
That's good. I mean, that does work sometimes. Yeah. But sometimes they do throw the big wigs at you that are very good.
I wasn't scared of any big wigs.
I do. All right. So we're on the 2-year-old. My point in saying that was it's a valid question. How did they lost this eye? Who's this specific employee? I wonder if this was this is a basic question for this entire letter. Was any of this corroborated? Did they go to the people mentioned? Did they find the people who were mentioned but not specifically named? And did they corroborate how much of a saint Jeffrey Epstein was? And did they ask if they knew they were mentioned in the letter and if they approved of themselves being mentioned as a character firsthand witness of the greatness of Jeffrey Epstein? Because this letter was largely responsible for getting him the sweetheart deal in secrecy that deprived his victims of their right to object to the plea deal that gave lifetime immunity to the unnamed co-conspirators who also, you see in the plea or the statement of facts in the court case, who also could be accused. It actually says that in their back and forth. All the lawyers for Epstein, the prosecutors, the AG, they talk about, look, we don't want there to be much of a reference to all of the people who we could also charge with any number of crimes related to Epstein's. We need to do this in a way where that is not realized.
Right.
And so they did all of that away from those people in secrecy, and they used the names of very powerful people and institutions as a way to do that and oppress the truth. I would think that if that were done, like if Bill Clinton's name is mentioned here, we'll find out shortly. His close friendship with Jeffrey, if it's mentioned. I would think that before they mentioned the former president in something that was accomplishing this, that they would ask him first. Are you okay with this? I don't think they do it without telling them, which one of our friends, when I told him about this years ago, because they mentioned the Clinton Global Initiative, he goes, I went to the Clinton Global Initiative website. It didn't say that Jeffrey Epstein was part of the original. I'm like, oh, you think they just used it in a court case to get a sweetheart deal without asking the president, dude? You think he just found out about it when you did? Give me a break. I had no idea. All right. I'm belaboring. People are going to get frustrated with me if I go too many rants here. They want to get to the juice, the details of this.
Fucking squeeze this shit.
Let's squeeze it. All right. Don't play. That's what Jeffrey used to say. Dude. That's what Jeffrey said. All right. So though the kid's son, the employee's son, lost one eye, he's now otherwise a normal 12-year-old. So what does that mean?
He's
not autistic or like what? It's like
lost one eye.
He's a normal 12-year-old who attends private school along with his 5 siblings, the expenses of which are borne by Mr. Epstein. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, and keep going because I was reading.
So just take a second there.
I know it's so weird.
Now, I want everybody listening to really take a second there. The employee's son lost an eye, but he's now an otherwise normal 12-year-old, which I would say he might have he might take issue with that description.
Yeah,
but
he's not going to be a pitcher anytime soon.
No, and he could get punched. You know, people are gonna if he's a boxer, he's gonna get
punched.
Yeah. Otherwise normal 12-year-old who attends private school along with his 5 siblings at the expenses borne by Mr. Epstein. What kind of person pays for 6 children, the 6 children of an employee to go to a private school after eagerly taking one of their kids to a research university that he's funding with experimental research, and that kid ends up blind? Is that somebody who's just a very benevolent person, or is that somebody who used the kid as a test experiment, has probably blackmailed the parent, the father or mother, and is like, look, here, nobody has to be in trouble here. How about we just forget about all this and I'll put all your kids into the best private school we can find? That's my interpretation. Pirate kid, says Tony. We'll give him an eye patch. We'll give him long hair. He'll be Jack Sparrow before Johnny Depp is. And again, I'm admittedly speculating, but knowing what we know now about Jeffrey Epstein, this is a very weird thing here, and I wonder if that person's ever been identified and questioned about any of this. Moving on. Several years ago, A new employee with whom Mr. Epstein had little or no prior contact approached Mr. Epstein to request a change in his medical insurance.
First of all, that's weird because you
It's
go to
very
HR
weird.
for that. You go to
It's-
HR
yeah.
for that. But go
Mr.
ahead.
Epstein. No, I completely agree. That is very, very odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this next phrase.
It says here, it was soon revealed that the employee and his wife were experiencing fertility problems.
Oh,
and
it was
they
just
were
soon revealed. It was just soon revealed.
Right. Like this here is
He came in and said, "Hey, I need to change my medical insurance. Why?
My boys ain't
the
swimming.
Usual,
My boys
the
ain't
usual, My
swimming.
boys ain't swimming, so I got to get medical insurance. Oh, tell me more about that employee I've never met
yes.
before.
So I have a theory on this. Knowing what we know now about Epstein, the story goes there was like a lab. What was the
I'll
island?
get her pregnant, but you got to let me keep the first one.
There's a different island where he was keeping semen because he wanted to create all these genetically engineered children through gene editing. Which there's stuff that references this that I found. Like he's definitely involved in that. And I believe that this employee knew that. I believe that he knew that Epstein was investing a lot of money in this type of genetic engineering through IVF and other even more not publicly available now ways. And I believe the only reason he would go to a man he's never met, he's never contacted, his boss, and request a change in his medical insurance is because he knew he could offer him and his wife as research subjects because of their experience with fertility problems and their inability to pay for treatments that cost $15,000 a month, according to this. That's what it says. They said they were seeking treatments that cost $15,000 a month, and Mr. Epstein then said, "You know what? I've never met you before, and I know you're my employee. I don't know what you do, but here's what I'm going to do. I insist on paying directly for those treatments, and I will do it every single month. And after each unsuccessful cycle, I will, as it says here, Mr. Epstein sat with the employee exploring available alternatives, including adoption, and encouraging the employee to continue additional cycles at Mr. Epstein's. Additional cycles, continue them at Mr. Epstein's, period." That's the end of the sentence.
Yeah.
At his house.
Come on over to my house. We'll have a couple of drinks.
Yeah. Come here. I got a few
I'll give
people
your wife
suck
some
you off.
fertility
Right.
treatment.
Yeah, we're going to
know.
suck and spit. We're going to suck and spit, and then we're going to pour it in your wife's vagina.
Yeah, like a little fertility treatment.
It's weird.
Give her the old fertility treatment.
Yeah, what's weird is doing this shit on a ranch in New Mexico. That's the one I was talking about. Thank you, Pat and his cat, is where he had all that weird fertility stuff. Maybe that's where they're saying that he continued these additional cycles. It then goes on to say, Mr. Epstein referred the employee to medical experts with whom Mr. Epstein was acquainted. Okay? And assigned personnel to assist the employee with administrative and secretarial needs that arose in seeking a solution to the problem. So he put a whole team of people and expert doctors in the field. He said, "I'm going to give you these 50 people who have nothing else to do but attend to your fertility issues, and it's all on me. I expect nothing back."
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No.
It doesn't. It makes that doesn't. That's why I think this letter is so crazy. Maybe because we know. I mean, I knew this stuff about him back then, but maybe the broader public knows a lot more about Epstein now. Because our friend right now would never defend Jeffrey Epstein like he did back in 2016 when I sent him this stuff. Right. So seeing this now and knowing what has been made public broadly, it's like, how could you even write these things which seem to kind of make him look even more guilty of other things than he's being charged with? I mean, it seems like a blackmail operation. Like it's
for
crazy.
sure.
But obviously, he was a blackmail guy. But all right, so this is the best part here. He says, Mr. Epstein is now the godfather of the employee's 7-year-old twins. ... who give him regular nude massages. I made that part up, but isn't that odd right there? I wonder what is involved in the role of Jeffrey Epstein, godfather. All right. Recently, to the next paragraph, I think a couple more pages of it, and it's getting even. It's like a movie where there's just it just gets better and better. Both a second employee and a consultant of Mr. Epstein each confided that they and their respective spouses were experiencing similar fertility problems. All these people are like, who should I talk to about my fertility problems?
Oh, Jeff.
I should go to Jeff. Where's he, in New Mexico again? Is he down there at that? Yeah, I'll fly down to that ranch.
Baby ranch.
Honey, do you mind? Do you mind taking your clothes off and sucking off Mr. Epstein so we can get some fertility?
No, I like sucking off that
good.
egg,
honey.
Egg.
Honey, let's get baby. Where's can you get our daughter in here? I want her to see how mommy.
Oh yeah.
Come in here.
Oh, Cindy's ready. I think Cindy's ready.
Yeah, that's right. When you turn 10, you're going to be doing what your mom does for Jeffrey, honey.
I've watched plenty. I know what to do.
That's right. And that's what this feels like. Honestly, it's gross, but it feels very, very dirty like this. Okay. So the second employee came, and again, Mr. Epstein offered to pay the uncovered medical. Can't he give them insurance if they're employees that cover it? Like, they keep saying uncovered. He could just give them better insurance that didn't require him to be so involved.
Well, it's just bizarre. You don't go to your boss to make a change on the insurance. It seems like they went to HR and they're like, oh no. You have to go to Mr. Epstein.
Right. And you're going to bring your wife unless she's over 16.
Yeah.
If she's over 16, she's too old. As
none
Nate
of that makes
says
sense.
Here.
Nobody does that. I'm sure he did pay for this guy's fertility treatments, but they probably did something. Whatever they injected this wife with, it wasn't. Absolutely. It was whatever. It was whatever.
Yeah. And when you the knowledge we have now about his desire to, he had all these eugenics desires and plans. And he invested heavily in, immortality type life extension technologies, transhumanism, and all kinds of crazy, crazy stuff. And when you combine all of that now with this, I mean, this to me is very, very obviously what they're revealing is he's using them as experiments for treatments that. These aren't even things that you could be like, let me find a clinical trial to go do. This is still secret stuff that you can only do on a weird island, and that after doing, you're going to be compromised for the rest of your life if you aren't already, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, these people are indebted forever. You're a slave to Jeffrey Epstein now.
Yeah, right. Pat says, would you rather spend the day with Jeffrey or Diddy? And, there's a connection there to this whole thing. These two that are controlled.
Yeah, but the question is which one?
Sam Altman-Fried, I think, because he's required to, or the sex is going to be too hard, would say Diddy because he's a nice guy, like he told Tucker Carlson. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Like as though Sam Bankman-Fried could go on Tucker Carlson from prison, and when asked about what's Diddy like, say he's a real rapist. Everything he says is true. Tries to lube me up and boof me.
I'm going Diddy over Epstein.
Really?
Yep. If I have to. Now this is a you have to choose. You don't get to wishy-wash it.
I don't know. What's up? What's going on? I would like to sit with Epstein and just ask. Although what's tough about it is if you even spend a day with either one of them and you're trying to ask questions of them to find out the truth about their secrets and their awful things they've done. Somebody's gonna snap a picture and look who's best friends with Diddy and Epstein, and they'll be like you, and everybody would be talking about. Do you know what you did with Jeffrey, Ian? Do you know what you helped? You can't even go after someone because it'll be spun by people who disagree with you as you supporting them. So that's a trap question, though. Although I would say, with a gun to your head, Diddy's face is too small. His eyes and his nose and his mouth are all way too close together, like a retarded Mr. Potato Head. It's weird.
I hate people who have that kind of face. Exactly what you're talking about.
That's all I can think about when I look at someone like that. Is like, how did your eyes get so close together?
Like everything's all smushed together.
Your eyes are like on top of your nostrils, P. Diddy.
Yeah, you got to get that fixed.
And this guy's he's organizing sex parties. Yeah. Get your eyes moved a little bit back.
Do you really organize a sex party? Or is it kind of just disorganized?
He's like, I have Jeffrey do it. And it's disorganized. All right. Moving on before people throw their hands up at me. All right. 2 years ago, after he saved that other, he's got all the so he's just hired nothing but people with fertility problems.
People like this looks like it's all stories of like a building workman. I said I'm dying. A woman needed to learn English. Another guy.
It just so happens his entire
wanted to get his
staff
college degree.
all had fertility issues with their wives, and
Epstein jizzed all over him.
Yeah, he said, "Stand below me beneath the balcony with your mouths and wombs open."
Epstein on his magic jizz farm.
You might as well have called it that. 2 years ago, so this document, as I said, was made public to people who knew how to find it on legal research platforms and were willing to pay, because it does cost, like it costs per document, and the time you spend, at least it used to, on these platforms. I borrowed somebody's account to find it again that already had a bunch of built-up credits. So fortunately, I didn't have to spend the money on it that I did the first time I found it. 2 years ago, a workman, so no name. So we're like three different people who have no names. We're about to get to the high-profile names. I want to know who these people are. A workman approached Mr. Epstein. It's like Epstein stands around all day being approached by unnamed workmen with fertility problems, and this one approached him with news that the workman's wife needed a kidney transplant and that the workman's sister-in-law in Colombia was a willing donor. Okay. The non-English speaking workman, I guess Epstein must speak the language of this workman, or maybe he drew it in the sand, had neither financial resources nor the know-how to get the sister-in-law to the United States. Mr. Epstein arranged for immigration counsel to expedite a visa, so he cheated the system there, for the sister-in-law, and he purchased the plane tickets for the sister-in-law to visit the U.S. The surgery was a success, and both patients recovered completely, but they didn't recover uncompromised, I would add. The sister-in-law flew back to Colombia at Mr. Epstein's expense, and I'd say probably opened up an Epstein sex trafficking franchise over there in Colombia.
Among his other acts, the acts of Epstein.
It's crazy. Epstein even helped a non-English speaking workman that he hired illegally bring his sister over here who needed to transplant her kidney to his wife, and then just send her back home because he's such a great guy.
He's amazing. I like this sound.
See, they should say Epstein, who is bilingual. They should add that, or they should say Epstein, who through a translator was able. They're leaving out some important details here. Mm-hmm. Moving forward, Mr. Epstein is a devoted advocate of personal improvement through education. As a former board member of the Rockefeller University, there's your first big name. As a former board member of Rockefeller University, Mr. Epstein has made available academic scholarships to worthy students, most of whom he has had no prior connection to whatsoever. But I would guess he evaluated beforehand.
Made sure they were worthy.
Mm-hmm. In addition, Mr. Epstein covers the tuition required to send the family members of his employees to nursery, private elementary, middle school, and secondary schools and colleges. He has funded and sex dungeons, yes, right. He has funded and personally encouraged continuing education programs for all his adult employees and professional consultants. Among his other acts, the next section starts with, on a trip to Rwanda to inspect the genocide camps, Mr. Epstein approached the president of Rwanda and offered to help identify and then fund two worthy Rwandan students who I'm going to guess were attractive.
Yeah.
To earn undergraduate degrees in the... Hey, why don't you let me take... Can I take these two black 13-year-old girls back with me to the U.S. is how I take... He bought sex slaves.
Yeah.
The students who Mr. Epstein did not meet until after their second year of studies. Okay. Both are expected to graduate with honors from the City University of New York and 2008, and notes from each of them. I haven't seen tab C, actually. I should find that. And then the next act that he has also done, even those with less lofty goals, seeking only to advance in their chosen paths, Epstein freely gives his time to provide guidance, and when appropriate, to provide financial support. Just random people he does. For example, Mr. Epstein has been meeting monthly with a teenage building workman.
What's so great about all this is that it just kind of glossed over. We heard the whole story of Jeffrey Epstein's life, except how the fuck did you get the money?
How'd you get the money, right?
And how are you making the money?
Absolutely. And they leave out the part that he I think he worked, he was a teacher very briefly for, was it Bill Barr?
Yeah.
Bill Barr's dad hired him or something like that?
No, it's all a bunch of side jobs. This is if you are a taxi cab driver and a mechanic with a good work ethic, you can eventually become
he'll
Jeffrey
fund your
Epstein.
wife's fertility. And what's also interesting is right now, all of the mentions to the workmen and employees who the public wouldn't know, that don't have influence broadly across the planet, are being described generically, no names. But as we just saw with the Rockefeller Institute, when it comes to the powerful and influential institutes that can threaten people and shape, incidents that affect society greatly and individuals greatly, those names are mentioned, and so are the specific people. So the more powerful and influential connections, the specific name is mentioned. That's why I think this is part of a threat, because you can't threaten somebody with, Javier Lopez, my workman, whose wife needed a new fallopian tube at old Jeffrey Epstein's Nevada weird eugenics ranch. But with Bill Clinton, and also with his buddy, who has actually never, as far as I can tell, been exposed as having a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We'll get to his name in a second, but it's the guy who is a pioneer in learned helplessness psychology. He created it. He's the guy. That's an interesting subject for Jeffrey Epstein to use, right? And he's buddies with this guy. And it's mentioned in this letter. And I found nowhere else on the internet where this guy has been connected to Epstein until right now, this second. And we'll get his name, I think, on the next page here as we get more and more specific. But in addition to these blocks of times, he met with young professionals to discuss their career paths and counsel them regarding appropriate next steps. Although Mr. Epstein is deeply committed to helping others in very personal and meaningful ways, he's also sought to use his good fortune to help others on a broad basis. Mr. Epstein has sponsored more than 70 athletic wellness programs, building projects, scholarship funds, and community interest programs in the United States Virgin Islands alone, where his sex island was. And by the way, you know who also did all of this shit hiding behind these philanthropic endeavors? Jimmy Savile, okay? And every other corrupt, powerful person who's ever existed, right? This is like the most perfect example, this letter, of the saying putting lipstick on a pig right here. Moreover, Mr. Epstein has given generously to support philanthropic organizations across the U.S. and around the world, including America's Agenda. These are the organizations he supports. Robin Hood, Alliance for Lupus Research, Ovarian Cancer Research. That's interesting. The Ovarian Cancer Research Fund, Friends of Israel Defense Forces, Seeds of Peace, the Jewish National Fund, the Hillel Foundation, the National Council of Jewish Women, and the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund, to name a few. Half of which were the Jews. A lot of people think he's Mossad. Does that mean that? I don't know. He's something, definitely. In a feature article about Mr. Epstein in New York Magazine, former President Clinton aptly described Mr. Epstein as a committed philanthropist with a keen sense of global markets and an in-depth knowledge of 21st century science. President Clinton reached this conclusion during a month-long trip to Africa with Mr. Epstein, which Mr. Epstein hosted. The purpose of the trip was to increase AIDS awareness, to work towards a solution.
There's some AIDS, and there's some
right.
AIDS.
Do you see it? I see it. It's just,
you see it? Okay, be aware. It's
there's
around you.
a lot of Magic Johnsons in this Rwanda over here, everywhere. To work towards a solution to the AIDS crisis and to provide funding to reduce the cost of delivering medication to those inflicted with the disease. Now, I don't know if they're referring to AZT, which Fauci was a pioneer of, and which there's a very, very strong argument is actually what killed many of the AIDS patients.
When they say they're doing like AIDS research, I don't think it's the type of AIDS research you want it to be.
Come on, open your butthole. Yeah,
Come on, we want to put some AIDS in there.
We're putting some AIDS in, whether you like it or not. It's the face of the ass.
Yeah. We just want to see what it does to your butthole.
Right. And they're like, why can't you just inject it? This is more fun. Probably.
We got to put it on the tip of my penis and put it in your butthole.
All right, I gotta deliver it personally.
Sorry.
We can't help ourselves. Okay. It's just, that's why you'll never hear us being too serious about it. Even though this is serious, it very is. But we will continue to be children.
You got it. You got it, man. You have to.
Yeah. Okay. So both before and after that trip to Africa, which on that trip, if I recall correctly, also with him was Kevin Spacey, and who is the comic, the black comic who's from Atlanta that was in the Jackie Chan. Wasn't the movie? I don't know why I'm blanking on this. Chris something, not Chris Rock. Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker
was on that one.
Chris Tucker.
Now again, just being associated and being on a trip like that doesn't convict you of a crime. Jeffrey Epstein, by all evidence, seems to have been very skilled at drawing people in and getting them close to him and creating compromising situations, sometimes before they realized who he was. This is, now after some of the cases against him were known public and should have been known to people involved, then that was harder. But that is what spies do, is they try and compromise people. If you know you're getting compromised by somebody, you're not getting on a plane. Like, it's like, hey, you want to come get on this plane to go help all these AIDS people in Rwanda, and you walk on, and there's a bunch of naked underage girls massaging, and it's like...
And everyone's snapping photos of you around them.
Oh, and then you turn around to walk off, and the door's shut, and you're already in the air.
You're in the air.
Where's the exit door? So this is it. And I'm not defending anybody who is on that flight log or whatever. Like Bill Clinton, for example, is on there like 27 times, and along with him in the flight log are like names that are obviously, well, maybe not obviously, maybe they're real names, but they're names of what appear to be prostitutes, like Shawinda. It's like, wait, so you have all these, and then you have Shawinda, who's an employee. That's weird that Shawinda happens to be on every flight with Bill Clinton. And Tawanka and Shawinda on every Bill Clinton flight is odd to me. I'd like to know who Tawanka and Shawinda are. So that, to me, that's not a good look for. And Donald Trump, a lot of issues, right? Doesn't have that going for him on the Epstein thing.
I know. No Epstein shit whatsoever.
No. Well, so his name is mentioned, and I actually, the lawyer, the victim's lawyer that I talked to, I personally talked to the victim's lawyer. I reached out to him, and he talked to me. One of them at the time. There's many victims and many lawyers, but he represented a handful of them, and he told me that he tried to depose all of these powerful elites in Jeffrey Epstein's organization, and that were in that his phone book, like Ghislaine Maxwell, all these other very powerful people. And he said the only one that didn't find a way to escape being deposed was Trump. He said Trump picked up the phone, he called me, we talked. He didn't even have to come in to be deposed because he gave me everything I needed. And now maybe he could be wrong, but he said Trump did not have anything to do with his organization. To give you a comparative example, Ghislaine Maxwell was someone he attempted to depose. Ghislaine Maxwell, in response to that, I don't know if it's a subpoena or how the request was made, said, I'm not in America right now. I am in the UK, and I'm never coming back to the country ever.
Right.
Because I'm taking care of my mom or something. And then 2 months later, she's pictured in New York at Chelsea Clinton's wedding.
But then, and she built a house in the middle of the woods. Well, all of New Hampshire's the woods. But she built a house in New Hampshire. Because, I don't know how much time you ever spent in New Hampshire, but it's pretty remote.
Yeah, it's a great place for a sex trafficking
It
operation.
is a good place to hide some sex. They have a huge meth problem there.
Yeah,
No income
right.
tax.
So it's like, yeah, well, that's probably why she built a big house there. The meth, I don't know, but there's pros and cons from everybody, and in building evidence, and this is not something that's popular in modern society. I think nuance is important. If someone's guilty in one area, write it down. That you have that. But if they're not, if there's something that might at first glance seem damning, and then it turns out that it might not be as damning, unless there's other stuff we don't know that is in evidence. Okay, there's stuff that's not in evidence that claims are made because you can sue anybody. But I mean, I talked to the lawyer of the victims who has no incentive to say that Trump is less involved than other people. In fact, he actually had an active lawsuit. He was suing Trump about some golf course issue in Florida at the time that I talked to him. So there was an adversarial relationship there. And like I said, I went into this research 9 years ago with the assumption that the Clintons and Trump had probably had both pedophiles, the stench of pedophilia on both of them. And I came out of it not saying Donald Trump's the greatest, most innocent person in the world. There's questions about Trump's background history too. But for this situation, I came out of it going, man, Clinton looks awful. Damn. And that is why, in my opinion, they suppressed this story, actively suppressed it anytime it was brought up on the main news networks. They would call you a conspiracy theorist Pizzagator. They would clump those together, and they would dismiss it until after Trump was in office. Clinton was no longer running, so the story could then be moved from what it actually is, a Clinton scandal story, partly, to the Trump scandal story that much of it they fabricated and took facts out of context and showed nothing about the Clintons. Clintons are out of the spotlight. Now we can talk about it. And only then did the mainstream media talk about it, is when the Clintons were no longer going to be affected. I'm rambling forever. Thank you, Groby. I appreciate that. Also, these are our favorite comments, by the way. Michael says, "Good Lord, you guys are funny." That makes me really wet. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too.
But like,
We
I
can't
sweat.
ever hear
That's what I
anybody,
mean.
so we just have to assume that people are having a good time.
Yeah. So in front of the live audience, we have that feedback right away. We know. But it's like when you're doing a podcast, you could be just bombing completely and have no idea. And sometimes I'm sure.
I'm sure it's happening.
I'm sure it's happening. Somebody one time who didn't like me called me a dime store. What's the? My mind is drawing a blank on everything right now. I think it's that. I think it's that COVID cognitive decline. Dice Clay, dime store Dice Clay, and I'm like, God, thank you. That's very.
You're a dime store Dice Clay. Well, we all know your nursery rhymes are great. All the propaganda.
I do great nursery rhymes, dude. I'll sell out 10% of Madison Square Garden any day. I love it. Dime store Dice Clay is a great compliment. So, and I actually said thank you. That means a lot to me. All right. Moving on back to the juicy, salacious stuff about the Clinton thing. All right, starting here with this paragraph. Both before talking about the trip to Africa with Bill Clinton, both before and after the trip to Africa, Mr. Epstein worked hard to achieve improvements in people's lives on a global basis. He actively sought advancement of his philanthropic goals through his participation and generous support of both the Trilateral Commission, and the Council on Foreign Relations. Two institutions mentioned in every single global domination conspiracy theory that has ever been spoken. Very, very powerful international organizations that has every single person you've ever suspected to be a lizard as members of. All right, so now Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, and the Rockefeller Foundation. Very three powerful institutes that he named specifically instead of being vague about, like the Workmen, right? Bill Clinton named specifically. I think is a message to Bill, honestly. Also, as you may know, the Trilateral Commission was formed to foster closer cooperation among core democratic industrialized society of the world in the pursuit of goals beneficial to the global population, aka world domination. The Council on Foreign Relations is an independent national membership organization, a nonpartisan center for scholars dedicated to increase international understanding of world issues and the foreign policy decisions that affect those issues.
Do you think they walk around just trying to increase? What do you mean increasing international understanding of world issues?
A international community. You having fertility problems? Because that's an issue here. We like to get some samples for. I mean, you connect this with eugenics and transhumanism. It really does paint a picture. One of the best pictures, in my opinion, knowing what we know now about Epstein, of an individual and maybe through the organizations and people he's linked to, legitimately trying to organize an elitist global control group that is going to implement eugenics and transhumanism for life extension around the globe. It's like it enslaved people, and literally enslaved people. I mean, that seems extreme, but I don't know how else to interpret some of this other stuff, because since we know some of this stuff that the media used to oppress before, they can't even deny the things said in this letter are weird and creepy. Right. Like before, they did act like this didn't exist. They do act like it doesn't exist, probably for this very reason. I mean, am I crazy? What do you think?
I mean, yes, you are, but I like it.
Definitely, right.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm crazy too. But
am I jumping the gun here on this interpretation here?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, this is one of those soft threats.
Totally, it's a soft threat, and also it's like, the dude did eugenics. He's going global. He's asking if he can bring a couple of young black girls back to America with him.
It's all very creepy. Everything just raises more questions.
Yeah, it does. That's why I'm like, were any of these people, did they go corroborate this stuff, or did they just say we accept it as truth? Okay, and I promised you we'd get out of here earlier. If you need to go, you can tell me. I'm sorry. I did not expect. We have like another page and a half, and that's it. I'll stop on the commentary. Okay, name a few. And then it goes on to say, all right, that. Okay, down here. All right. What page is this? Okay, it's almost done. I think there's 2 more pages. All right. Mr. Epstein was part of the original group this is the one that people have seen, as part of the original group that conceived of the Clinton Global Initiative, which is described as a project bringing together a community of global leaders who devise and implement innovative solutions to some of the world's most pressing challenges. Focus on this initiative include poverty, climate change, global health, and religious and ethnic conflicts. Ethnic conflicts, Mr. Epstein has ethnic cleansing as a part of eugenics. I might add, at least the original eugenics, who a lot of these people probably learned from through Operation Paperclip when they brought all the Nazi scientists over here, who I guarantee you Epstein was a student of their work. Mr. Epstein has sought to improve people's lives through active participation in worthy scientific and academic research projects. He spent hundreds of hours researching the world's best scientists. Interesting. Not just tens, hundreds. And he himself studied at Harvard as a Harvard Fellow in order to increase his own knowledge in fields that he believed, now we got Harvard, that he believed could provide solutions to the world's most difficult problems. And he committed to helping the right researchers who we could compromise, to find those solutions, especially in fields of medical science, human behavior, and environment. In the past 4 years, this is good here, Mr. Epstein has made grants to research programs at major institutions under the supervision of some of the most highly regarded research professionals and scholars in their field, including Martin Nowak. Martin Nowak, a mathematical biologist who studies, among other things, the dynamics of infectious diseases and cancer genetics. Interesting. So this guy, have you ever heard of this guy? Mm-mm. This guy's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was exposed in 2020. And after Epstein, it was known what the charges against him were, and that sweetheart deal had happened, continued his relationship. Epstein helped this guy get a job at Harvard. And in exchange, he took all this money that Epstein was donating to do research that Epstein wanted. And then after Epstein was disgraced, he continued to sneak Epstein in to Harvard, giving him a key in a private office, and continued to conduct research based on the money Epstein gave him, even after all of this, which resulted in this guy losing his position at Harvard and getting his program canceled, only for Harvard to then start working with that guy again in 2023 on infectious diseases.
They just all they do is wait. They just say, hey, get out of town, wait for things to cool off.
Absolutely.
And then
That's
come
it.
back in.
Dude, that's exactly what they did. And so you see all this funding stuff going to Harvard right now they're talking about.
Take a
It's funding
vacation.
this guy.
Take a vacation. You've always wanted to go to Rwanda.
100%. Yeah, go find you some AIDS
you've
girls.
and
you know.
awares and become aware of some AIDS. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah, you can, analyze some AIDS, give a little AIDS, But also, again, this document, this was published through the legal research sites that anybody who paid and knew how to find it could find in 2016. This guy did not get exposed until 2020. They waited 4 years. They waited till after the Clintons were out of the spotlight. They waited until Epstein was dead. And then they found a scapegoat to make it look like they were doing something. Now, the next name here, Roger Schnack, Martin Seligman, actually, known for his work on positive psychology. Oh. That is to say, the psychology of personal fulfillment. Now, Martin Seligman is an 80-year-old who works for, it's either Penn or
so he's like a secular Joel Osteen, right?
He's like 85 years old, yes, and he pioneered the concept of learned helplessness. And this guy his relationship with Epstein actually has not been exposed. And I did a bunch of research last night, and I finally found one article about a magazine. The name slips my mind right now. I'll find it for the next show. But a magazine that Epstein was the largest, is an online magazine, back then one of the first probably. He was the largest funder to, that had as contributing writers all of the people that he funded and worked with him, and that there was a dinner that all of the writers and Jeffrey Epstein and other powerful people on the planet all had together. This is an article written in like 1996. And the dinner each year, because they would have one each year, was described as the dinner of the world dominators, the mind controllers meet in secret. That's how they described all of this. And in these articles, because they don't know about Epstein yet, they're boasting about how Epstein's bragging to everyone about how he swims with the director of Jurassic Park, who's dead now. So he also has an interesting relationship with Epstein. But this guy here, this old guy, whose relationship until now has not been revealed to the public, would brag at these parties about getting to spend time with Epstein and how he's doing all this work with Jeffrey Epstein, the wonderful, wonderful guy doing all this life extension research and using the psych. This is learned helplessness is exactly what the sex slaves that he's able to bring into his control have, because they need him. They need someone to step in and be that father figure like person that they don't have in their lives.
For everybody, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So this guy, I'm sorry, Martin, I don't mean to get you in your elderly, but, I'm sure you'll be safe until Ian Carroll, does a show on this and people actually see it. But this is the most insidious one to me, is this Martin guy. Because, look that guy up, man. There's no mention of him in Epstein. I had to do, deep search modifiers. I had to search different times just to find anything to find that dinner that these two had. So this guy is in the clear right now. So the next guy, Roger Schnack, a leading researcher in the application of cognitive learning therapy or theory to the curricula of formal education, also a mind control thing. This guy was exposed in 2020 for his relationship, same as the other. The next one, it says his relationship with the renowned physicist, cosmologist Lawrence Krauss, who also his relationship was exposed in 2020, not 2016 when this came out. Institutions funded by Epstein include Harvard University, Penn State University. Penn State, that guy Martin worked for Penn State, I think still does. He's also funded Lenox Hill Hospital in New York. He's funded the Biomedical Research and Education Foundation, the Santa Fe Institute, the MIT, Case Western Reserve University, and Harvard's Medical School Institute for Music and Brain Science. Moreover, Epstein has sponsored and chaired symposia that have provided a rare opportunity for the world's leading scholars to research professionals to share ideas across interdisciplinary. I can't say that word. Lines. You get
Interdisciplinary.
it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, yes. Whenever I am retarded and not speaking,
I'll jump
this
in.
is what we do. Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
These leaders gather to discuss important and complex topics, including the origins of life, systems for understanding human behavior, and personal genomics, a.k.a. eugenics, is what that is. That's the Nevada ranch with all the sperm.
Yeah, that is, isn't it? That's
It's exactly what it is. In order to
Bitches,
it's
they
crazy.
always do this.
I mean, like,
They hide like rats in a sewer.
you've never heard any of this before, right?
No, none of it.
Because it's the first time it's been revealed. And it's been available since 2016, the first time I revealed it, to like the people driving, listening to WSB, waiting to call in and tell Monica she's pretty. Really, and say right, and she is. She's very, very pretty, but a joke. All right. So, in order to expand the pool of qualified research professionals actively engaged in addressing the world's numerous problems, aka his problems, transhumanism, eugenics problem, Mr. Epstein co-funded and served as a trustee and actively participated in the selection committee of the Scholar Rescue Fund. Actively participated, again, choosing who gets to pass, and basically putting himself in a position of authority where he gets to decide whether or not co-eds get life-changing money and opportunities, right? That's a great way to meet young college girls you can corrupt.
Wow.
The Scholarship Research Fund is a program of the Institute of International Education, the group that administers the Fulbright Scholarship Program, another very, very well-known program.
His parents instilled him with all of this, by the way.
His
And
middle
the
class,
job and the taxi cab job.
hard-working parents
Yeah.
gave him what he needed to pull himself up by his bootstraps and become like part owner of Berkshire Hathaway at age 25. What a story! The the SRF, the Scholar Research Fund, provides support and safe haven to scholars at risk around the world. Support. So it's like we're going to get Fauci out of the U.S. and we're going to take him over to Epstein Island before people go after him. And this is the last little part here. Over the past 5 years, SRF has made 155 grants in 37 countries. They have placed scholars in host universities in safe countries. They've moved them. More than 87 institutions around the world have hosted these scholars, including 8 of the top 10 universities in the U.S. More recently, the SRF launched the Iraq Scholar Rescue Project to save scholars in Iraq. I'm sure very attractive, busty ones, many of whom have particularly been targeted for kidnapping and death since the conflict began. Mr. Epstein is a highly valued member of the selection committee. Of course he is.
Yeah.
And just a few articles mentioning these and other projects. All right, this and there. All right. Even a casual review, in conclusion, basically. Even a casual review of the good works, large and small, in which Jeffrey Epstein has involved himself leads one to conclude that he has a powerful instinct to help others. He does this not simply because he can, but because he has a deeply ingrained desire to do so. In fact, he believes that as a result of his good fortune, he is obligated to do so. And since 2020, the man, the myth, the saint Jeffrey Epstein has funded educational assistance, science and research community, and civic activities. And as you can see, his philanthropy is not limited to financial support. To the contrary, it's involved the dedication of a remarkable amount of his time and effort, and has yielded admirable results. And it's noteworthy that a majority of the people he has helped over the years have been those whom he has had little or no contact, which further confirms that he derives no personal benefit from his good works.
He just feels good. He likes the feels.
Altruism. No personal benefit other than the personal satisfaction, which I believe is he calls a hand job, from using his good fortune to help others, and the sincere devotion of others evidenced by Mr. Epstein's philanthropic activities is no less apparent in his interpersonal relationships, as Mr. Epstein has maintained both long-term significant, intimate, as well as professional relationships. He remains close to personal friends with whom he went to high school with, and to this day maintains close business contacts with his former colleagues at Bear Stearns. Those who know Mr. Epstein well describe him admittedly as quirky, but certainly not immoral. Which I want to say, that's how I introduce all my friends. I say, hey, you want to meet Bill over here? He's quirky, and look, I promise you he's not immoral.
Not immoral whatsoever.
So if you see him getting a massage from a naked 13-year-old, it's for philanthropy.
It's okay. That's mutual consent.
Yes, yeah. He's trying to help Rwanda. And they describe him overall as kind, generous, and warm-hearted, and they have remained staunch supporters to him despite the lurid media attention. See, after a 2-year investigation, I want to know who they mean by that, and I want to know if this is true. I want to know if Clinton knew he was in this. I want to know if he gave the approval. I want to know if Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, all those other science people, and Mr. Epstein acknowledges the activities under investigation as well as himself have had and continue to have an unfortunate impact on people. But with a profound sense of regret, he hopes to end any further embarrassment to all, including probably these named here, who are and who may become involved in this serious matter and probably don't want to. Resolution of the outstanding charges in the state would put an appropriate end to the matter for everyone, even Bill Clinton. And that's it. I'm sorry, Ian.
Wow.
I didn't realize it would take so long, but
dude, it was great. I that was very informative, Brad. Thank you.
what do you think? What is your instant reaction?
My instant reaction is what I really think this is just it's a list. It's a list of names, and it's all these
threads
and
to
stuff.
pull.
Yeah. It is one of those. Sure would be a shame if something happened to your business.
I think we should resolve this in a way that is going to be best for everyone who may become involved.
Because it's so long, you forget where this started. Where it started was, this is why you should just drop it.
Yeah, you want to drop it?
You should just drop it. Look at the Trilateral Commission, guys. The Trilateral Commission. You really want to fuck with a guy?
Remember that time in Rwanda looking for AIDS? We wouldn't want that to become known to your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Because you looked for AIDS harder than anybody else.
Your kid's only got one other eye. Shame if he lost that too. Then he could never find anything.
Right. I'm feeling hungry, and you know that nothing satisfies me more than your kid's eyeball. Yeah.
It's time for a little research.
Yeah. It's time for a little rape, is what we're saying. Okay, we're gonna show the compromising videos of all of yous. Honestly, dude, that's how I read this. I read this as like this grand threat.
It's 2007, huh?
2000. Well, so the case started in 2007 and 8, but it was a it was like a decade long. This document particularly was filed by the lawyer I spoke with in 2016, and it was publicly available then. So 9 years ago, 4 years before, the couple of people that were exposed and held kind of canceled briefly and then reinstated before any of that happened. So there's another question. Why did nobody care about this? Why didn't the Miami Herald expose this? Why didn't Mike Cernovich expose this? Did they not know? I mean, he's a lawyer. Like, if somebody's not a lawyer and they're doing basic research, I can understand. I didn't know how to do any of that research until I went to law school, so that's understandable. But when you're a lawyer and you know how to do it and you have access and you do not reveal this.
Dershowitz was his lawyer?
Alan Dershowitz signed this letter. Yes, he was. You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was Alan Dersh, and Alan Dersh will say, he says, it's my duty, just like it's Jeffrey Epstein's duty to, to fix all of his Hispanic employees' wives' fertility issues and get them, lung transplants from immigrants that he smuggles over. Alan, it's my duty to defend the worst criminals. I defended OJ. Alan Dershowitz was accused of being on the island, but he provided a calendar of his. He apparently provided receipts that disproved the claims made by Virginia Guffey, from my understanding of it. And so Virginia Guffey, that's what's a problem about all this. Virginia Guffey is one of the main. You familiar with her? The girl who was pictured with Prince. What's the the prince over who had the photo with the sex slave, not Charles, the disgraced one.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember his name, but the disgraced prince.
That was
who-
Charles. No, not Charles. That was.
It was his son, or no, cousin.
Prince
Hold on.
Andrew.
Prince
No,
Andrew, yes. So Prince Andrew is the one who did the sweating interview saying he didn't have sex with a woman.
Yes,
He's pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell and with this at the time 16-year-old Epstein sex slave named Virginia Giuffre. Now the problem with Virginia Giuffre is that while she has provided credible evidence of many things, she's also very obviously provided non-credible evidence of many things, which happened recently as well. When I saw a story, it was trending on X. Did she actually, or maybe I'm wrong with that. Did she die? Did she actually die? No, I don't think she did. She posted that she had gotten hit by a car or something and that she said the doctors told her that she has 4 days to live. And I read that immediately and I said, and you're posting this to Instagram. This is bullshit. Yes, you might have gotten hit by a car or something, but you're not about to die. And it appears that she is still alive. Yes, she has days to live. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I just haven't seen it. Maybe she did. I hope not. But she's had a lot of credibility issues herself over the years, which complicates when you make a case against Epstein and others. And maybe there's some influence there pressuring her. I'm sure there is. It's a very dark, twisted tale.
Well, no, she said 2 weeks after she said she only had 4 days to live, she is still around, so she's not dead.
Right, and it's just I've never seen somebody be like, "Oh my God, I'm about to die in 4 hours." Instagram.
I do that every time. Every time I have a cold, I do that.
Right, and what's
Dying.
I don't look. I'm going to show the picture. I don't want to, but the reason I'm showing the picture is because the picture is what made me question it, because it was like a Nancy Mace picture about stopping, being the Davy Crockett of the women's bathroom. It focused not on that issue. It focused on her tits. And I have to say, when you're making an Instagram post about how you're about to die that features your cleavage in this manner, I kind of distrust it a little bit. Like, she doesn't look good, but why?
I'm gonna die. I'm falling out of
It's
my
like,
top.
God, man, she looks rough, but boy, those titties.
Boob.
Boob. Yeah, and there's a sticker. There's a Band-Aid on her boob.
Mm-hmm.
That is what, man, that's modern society. It's unfortunate, but that is how modern society works these days. Ian, thanks for sticking around longer.
Brad, I love you.
I love
Thank
you
you,
too.
everyone.
I am
It was
super
super
sorry.
fun.
Talk to you later,
apologize.
dude. And
I
I'm going to read some of these comments and then get out of here. But
Sweet.
I'll talk to you next week, man.
right,
Have a
man.
good one, dude.
You too. Bye.
See you, dude. All right, I'm going to go through some of y'all's comments real quick before I get out of here because I was kind of going rapid fire through some of that. All right, let's see here. Let's see. Fully blind or one eye. I think it was one eye, but depending on what happened to that kid that Epstein helped in the future, we will never know. Let's see. Yeah, the Nevada Ranch is what we were talking about, Kat. Let's see here. There's a couple that I wanted to see. Chris Tucker, yes. Thank you, Groby. That's what I was looking for sure. And I hope Chris Tucker wasn't involved in anything. I do, because I think I like him. He's funny. It's always a bummer, isn't it, when somebody that you really like is exposed as just like a really terrible person. You had the whole thing where it's like they say don't meet your heroes because you meet them and they might just be complete dicks or assholes, which is not always the case. Some people are actually really kind people. Some people live up to the perception people have of them, but it's a real letdown if someone doesn't. For me personally, I think idolizing people that you don't know that are put on a pedestal because of media and stuff. I've always kind of been. I've never liked that. I've never really done that, but I get how Michael Jordan would be the closest for me. If the only person, like, I've met a lot of celebrities. I've done movies with Gabrielle Union. I've been in scenes with and stuff, and like very, very, and she didn't say anything about her and Dwayne Wade's trans daughter at the time. This was years ago, but I've just never had any infatuation, or I've never given a rat's ass about someone's status like that who I've known. Some who I've known have been very kind people. Like, she was very kind to me. She was very, very kind to me. My experience with her was a good one. My experience with Tyler Perry, when he directed a show I was in, there's a lot people say about him, and he says a lot of things I disagree with. And I think the whole Medea thing is very odd and weird, like her. But my personal experience with Tyler Perry, he was very, very kind. And he did a very cool thing for the other actor who played my fraternity brother in the show we were in, because that guy, it was the first job he had booked, and he was he was literally shaking. He was so nervous. And Tyler Perry, he put his arm around him, and he gave him a pep talk. And I was like, man, that's really cool. He could have easily gotten mad at him and brought in another actor, but he didn't. And I thought that was cool. A lot of weird things about him. But my point is, like, I've always just been like, these are just people. These are just people who are pussies and full of shit like everybody else. Except Michael Jordan might be the only person I'm like, dude, you're fucking awesome. Like, oh my God, right? And maybe he's like a dick. And I might even like it, because that's why he's good, is because he was such a dick. But putting people on a pedestal like that, it sets you up for disappointment, because in the people's mind, it's like, that person has to live up to my perception of this person created by media and a PR team. And I think you probably have to go be very conscious and aware, and maybe even go out of your way to not let your weak moments, when you can kind of snap at people and maybe not be the nicest, which we all have. I think you probably got to go a little bit out of your way when you're somebody who is a celebrity, if you want to make sure to not create that disappointment in people, which I don't even know why I went into that, actually. But Jeffrey Epstein appears to certainly target these people who are famous and attempt to compromise them and attempt to turn them in to the disappointment that many of their fans would experience. Like seriously, he seemed to go after people and let me just make sure that you are the dirtiest, most compromised person ever. And if you don't play ball, the world's going to know it. And if people actually care, celebrities care about how they're perceived, some don't, then that is one of those ways to compromise them that the CIA, with their methods, mice and rascal, RASCL, talk about. Is Jeffrey Epstein, by all appearances, seems to have used every single CIA acronym to turn someone into a double spy, which means compromise them, control them, that they use in the intel agencies. Of course, people who are regular individuals can do that, can learn to do that, can use basic human psychology to understand and do that. But to set up such an elaborate operation, coming from such humble beginnings as that letter says, not wealthy middle-class people, it would seem there was another little bit of a boost there. And I definitely do not disagree with those who say that Epstein was an intel agent. For who? I don't know. Maybe not just for one country. Doesn't have to be just for one country. He could be working for many, many others. He could still be alive for all we know. Rambling on. Extortion sensei. Absolutely. He is an extortion sensei. Do you guys think he is alive? Do you think that they moved him? I mean, it's not, you say that and people who are normies are like, oh, yeah, right, he's still alive. Give me a break. I saw the news story. I saw the picture from up there. Okay, weird. Like, it is not like, you can search CIA declassified documents and find plenty of stories about how the death of a prominent person was faked and that nobody knew that for decades. And if that's true, then that means that there's going to be deaths that were fake that nobody ever knew about. So that's the unfortunate thing about something like this is those of us who suspect that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, like I do, will never know the truth. Unless, like, when we die, when we go to the afterlife, it's like, if you were good, you lived a good life. we're going to tell you the truth about Epstein. I'd be like, yes, you earned it at that point. You did a lot of good things in your life. You tried. And because of your efforts and your good heart, here's the real Epstein files. Peter brings them out. It's all unredacted at the pearly gates. It's like, oh my God. Oh my Jesus. Sorry. Oh my goodness. I never knew it went this deep, Lord. Well, if it makes you feel any better, here's an image. Here, look, you can look in on all of them burning in hell. And it's like, oh, wow. I don't know if that torture ritual makes me feel any better. I digress. Moving back to the comments. I'm a little retarded. Look, I'm sorry. 4 days to live. Never have a doc mate. Right. It's just, and it sucks that Virginia Giuffre comes off as lacking credibility in her personal life and state. So the Dershowitz thing. Dershowitz seemed to provide evidence that completely debunked, as I say, her claim that he was there on the island. Now, she was young. Maybe she misremembered. Maybe she saw him somewhere else. Maybe the evidence, I'm not going to say it's fabricated because Dershowitz, well, he's like a great lawyer. I don't want to get sued. But he gave the receipts. And something like that, when she so definitively made all these claims against all these other people, she said she saw Clinton at the island. She made all these claims about the celebrities and who she was forced to have sex with, like the prince, which that one was proven, not the sex, but the picture. We see the picture of him with her and Maxwell. But when you throw in one like Dershowitz that is pretty thoroughly disproven, it makes you have to question all the other claims that aren't proven as well. Yeah. And like I said, perhaps there's a lot of pressure around her to discredit her. Perhaps you need to lay over and you need to take a picture. You're going to be fine, but we're going to tell people, you're going to tell them you're about to die to make you seem like you're seeking attention, even though you're not. That's definitely something compromising people would do. Groby says, you should don what is a percu? What is that? Is that like a Jewish hat or something? Percu? Did I spell that right? Oh, like a devil hat. It's like a devil hat? Right, now. You should don one of those hats when you are schooling on the law. Oh, I think I know what you mean now. Yeah, I quit law school after my second year to go do comedy, obviously, because it's very smart to quit law school after 2 years and thousands of dollars to go do a job that pays tens of dollars for life. But that's what I did. And so I know there's a lot of lawyers that know far more than me. Some that know that are also very dumb, and they ask ChatGPT for case law, and ChatGPT makes it up. Like, literally, you're getting paid. That's what lawyers, one of the main things they get paid the big bucks for, is they are good at finding the case law that they can put together and weave into a story that will defend their client in a way that will overcome charges or minimize them, or on the other side, that will get that conviction. I mean, that's the difficult part, at least from my experience, is that research. And when I was in law school, I won an award for advocacy and research writing in one of my classes because I was able to find amongst all these thousands of documents for our class project a statute in case law that I was able to frame in a way that I could connect it to where it was a actual good, effective defense for the person I was assigned to defend. And it had never been done before. That was the first time anybody had done that. And I attribute that to my weirdness and my improv training. One of the exercises is here are two completely unrelated things. You have to justify why they're together in a scene. And that's kind of what I did with that. And then after winning that little just law school awards, all it was. It's like, you don't get anything but just I get to talk about it years later and feel good about myself. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to quit. I'm going to go do improv for $5 a year. Nevertheless, my point is, I'm hesitant sometimes because I know lawyers listen who know more about this stuff than I do. Really smart people. And I want to be corrected when I'm wrong on that. I always do. Because I mean, lawyers are people who are good lawyers who actually care are an asset, because you ask them questions, they will give you good answers. So if I'm wrong about stuff like that, lawyers listening, tell me. I would like to know about it. Okay. All right, I've rambled way too long. Another negative thing. What's the other negative? You might be out at this point, Sonia. I don't know if you're still listening. Sonia said on Rockfin, oh crap, another negative thing about New Mexico. Oh, is you might be referring to the Rust movie where Alec Baldwin shot that cinematographer. And then the Armory production worker was charged with the death. Not the murder, but the involuntary manslaughter. Have you guys seen the videos going around of Alec Baldwin, by the way? There's been a number of videos lately, starting with that one where his wife cuts him off on the red carpet. I talk now. And he apologizes. Like a little bitch, he apologizes. And then the follow-up to that one where he's like sitting on a couch, lounging with his wife, being interviewed. So there's a reality show coming out featuring Alec Baldwin and his wife that I think is probably geared more towards his wife being the dominant figure in that relationship. Because every video, it like feminizes Baldwin. It emasculates. It's like he's contributing to his own public emasculation. And he looks more and more like a pussy with each one of these things that came out. Maybe that is his punishment for not getting any, because they could have prosecuted him, maybe gave him some prison time if they really wanted to. I'm not saying that, I don't know all the facts, but I'm not saying that that's how it should have gone. But with everything there, the powers that be could have landed him in prison. They might have said, you know what? We're going to let you off. And what you're going to do is you're going to be a cuck for a new reality show, and you're going to watch your wife get plowed. Like there's a video of him talking like a girl about his wife's ex that he had to go watch a stage play where this guy was performing. And he said that when he met his wife's ex backstage, all he could think about was how big and thick. And this is how he was describing it. This is not me. His wife's ex's dick was, because he was naked. They walked backstage, and he met his wife's ex while he was naked after a show, and he couldn't take his eyes off his wife's ex's baseball bat-sized penis. That's like 5 minutes of Alec Baldwin, which is that is a very definitive framing of how he is going to be represented in this new reality show. Alec Baldwin, cuck. And that's okay with me, honestly. They're both very, very unlikable people. Barrister. Oh, my God, yes. Dude, that's a great idea, Groby. I love that. I'm going to order one of those right now. That's a really good idea to get one of those barrister wigs. Sam Tripoli says, the body they showed us has mascot size head. No, I've talked to Sam. I think the first show that I ever did with Sam was before Epstein died. Sam, I think it was when he was getting his podcast really blowing it up towards the beginning. He messaged me on X or Twitter at the time and asked if we wanted to be on his show, and I was like, yeah. And then when I talked to him, it was like we start talking about Epstein and stuff like that. Because I think it's actually shortly after I had done an episode about this same stuff. And so, like, I think the first episode, we covered a lot of this stuff. And then Epstein died, or allegedly disappeared anyway. And he called me, and he was like, we were talking about this crazy. It was crazy, dude. Wasn't it crazy when Epstein died? I mean, the whole story is just begging to be questioned. The cameras didn't work. The security guards fell asleep. And reading back through these documents the past couple of days, I thought about that aspect of his death story because in these documents, maybe I'll show this in a show next week, it lists, and I didn't read this the first time I went through these, and I hadn't seen this before. I knew most of the details of his sweetheart deal, but the finer points of it were elaborated in bullet point in one of these documents, and I just didn't read that before, and it actually included more than I knew until yesterday. And like one of the bullet points was that Epstein, basically he's going to be able to stay at home. I know everybody knew this. And he just got to call in and be checked on. And he'd have to come do something for like a day on a weekend every month or something in a jail, which I think he funded the building of, whatever. And during that time, he would be provided with his own personal private security force. And that security force, and this is the part I didn't know, would be so they were going to choose people who had no other obligations so that they weren't tired and so that they could be alert and so that they could keep eyes on Epstein for every single second that he was in this jail to make sure that there's no way, because he was already isolated away, but just in case, to make sure nothing would happen to him. And that struck me because that's the exact opposite of the type of security that they provided him at this prison, where they fell asleep, the camera stopped working, and boom, I woke up and Jeffrey was dead. It was an interesting contrast there. Again, I still think that he got out of there. So another thing about that prison, I looked it up right after he died. I did some research I read the manual, and I did some research on people who have escaped from the prison. I think it was a New York Metropolitan Prison or something. I think Diddy might have been there for a while. R. Kelly was there. You know, Sam Bankman-Fried probably running that shit, whatever. But I was looking to see if anybody had ever successfully escaped from the prison that Diddy was in. Because, like I said, if anybody is going to be able to escape, if it's possible, it's going to be somebody whose life is that story that these lawyers just told, who might be and is most likely an intel agent for probably a number of countries, including Mossad. Jeffrey Epstein would be the guy. He'd have the resources, and there'd be people interested in doing it. And I found that there was one example of somebody who had somehow escaped their cell, and they had gotten out a window on the top floor, and they got to a helicopter that had landed because the whole thing was coordinated. And the only reason that this person's escape was successful is because they were moved to the top floor and put in a cell that gave them the perfect positioning to get out without getting caught, which is the exact same thing, exactly what they did for Jeffrey Epstein right before he allegedly died. He was moved to the exact same floor in the exact same wing, if I recall correctly, that this person who escaped was. An escape enabled by the very positioning that the authorities put him in before. Like, it's crazy. Hey, how about, we just move Epstein to that cell where the only person who's ever escaped got out of here. And that's like what they did, whatever. All right. All right, I think that is going to be it for today. I actually have more stuff from this document, too, that's very interesting. There's another one. There's another letter that says there's no concern from any party that if we give Epstein this sweetheart deal, I mean, he did nothing anyway, such a great guy. There's zero concern that he will ever be a reoffender. Nobody's worried he's going to do it again. It's crazy. I mean, that is such a joke. But that's a legit court document filing that apparently the prosecutors, the Attorney General of the U.S., and of course Epstein's lawyers all agreed on. All agreed on. Thank you. He's in Antarctica. Okay. Possibly. He's somewhere for sure, I think. Thank you, Groby. I appreciate that. You know, I look forward to seeing this on Joe Rogan in a few months when, you know, Ian Carroll or Laura Loomer breaks the story. Propagandafight.com is the website. You can support the show by sharing it with your friends, by donating in the various ways. You can donate in super chats on YouTube, Rumble, and all of that. You can like it. You can leave a 5-star review and a comment that warms my heart on your podcast app where you listen. And you can also, if you're listening on your podcast app, just let the ads play through because we don't get anything if the ads are skipped. And by letting them play through, well, yes, I admit they might be a little annoying. But they're far less ads you're going to get elsewhere, and you're actually supporting the show financially by doing that. And again, just telling friends of yours who you think might enjoy the show helps also. And we appreciate everybody who does help and all the great chats. Like I love we didn't used to do live shows all the time until a few years ago. I was like, I want to do the shows live. And I'm glad I did because I love the chats. I think they're great. I love you guys. Tony says, speaking of old tinfoil hat episodes, any updates on linebacker Stacey Abrams? I saw her in the news today, Stacey Abrams. She was talking about how Trump's cutbacks of USAID they're racist, obviously, because she has a God-given human right to that $2 billion to funnel through all her front organizations. She actually was referencing all those. I haven't looked at the story fully yet. But she'll be back. Stacey Abrams is always working in the background. She is one of their best organizers of young people of color, because of the stories she tells them. And she teaches activism classes about how to, this is 100% true, about how to take a kernel of truth from your life and turn that kernel of truth into your policy propagating story. It's how to take a kernel of truth, fabricate a story about it, and connect that story to a policy, a DEI-like policy, obviously an oppression-like story, that you can use to convince people, if you're good enough, if you're one of the good ones at it, that they need to mobilize against authoritarianism. She literally teaches people how to lie about themselves, to propagate policies just to get people to come along and think that they're being oppressed. It's crazy. And knowing that, when you look at every single story that she is told to do that exact same thing and you investigate the back story of it, every single one of them, and there are so many. I actually was working on it the other day. I'm going to do a show specifically on the stories Stacey Abrams tells. To get people to go along against their own best interests. I said it on the show the other day. The people who become the politicians out of these activist groups, chosen usually at a young age, often they've had a family of civil rights activists and actors in their life, Black Panthers and actors like Jesse Smollett and Stacey Abrams' family. It's the ones who prove themselves, starting in college, prove their ability to mobilize masses of people around an issue and to get those masses of people to take action against their own best interest, because that's powerful. Stacey, look at her. She can get all of these people young black men, many of them, to take action in ways that will absolutely ruin their future. Promote her. All right, guys, I'm getting out of here. We will talk to y'all soon. Might do something short tomorrow. I might do like a condensed version of this tomorrow just to beat other people to the punch. But if not, I will see y'all next week. You guys have a great weekend and a fantastic rest of your evening. Later.